Everyone that currently clicked on this video, I'm wishing all of you a fantastic day or night wherever you live, and may you all accomplish every goal that you set out to do today. But with that out of the way, let's talk about why you clicked on this video. Let's talk about One Piece, and if Dr. Vegapunk's design is one of the worst or one of the best character designs that we have seen in recent One Piece. And let's discuss that, because it's been a big polarizing topic ever since the leaks came out this past week for One Piece chapter 1066, and it's something I've definitely wanted to just cover. I wanted to make a video really just talking about Dr. Vegapunk and kind of just the design and what's been happening in the latest chapters, etc. I want to kind of cover all this that's kind of completely centered around the character. So let's talk about it. Dr. Vegapunk, this design that you currently see on the screen, is this a bad design? Okay, we gotta look at this. I've been seeing a lot of people on social media. I don't know who is, like, in the minority or the majority. Like, I don't know. I think it's probably 50-50 of how the community probably feels about, let's say, the actual Dr. Vegapunk look. But the point is that when it comes to character designs, this is fundamentally One Piece aesthetic. Anyone that has made it literally 1,000 chapters into this manga and has actually read it and not joking about it knows that when it comes to designs of One Piece, this is something that is just typical Oda. Oda always does wacky, over-the-top, ugly designs sometimes. That's what he does. Like, he legitimately does that. He makes characters just look really wacky, and it's just like, why, or funny, etc. And when you think about that, everything about this design, for instance, Dr. Vegapunk's real body, fits perfectly. It really does fit that One Piece Oda aesthetic that he always does. There is nothing that really is breaking the norm, nothing that is definitely different from what we're used to. However, we got to talk about the gravity of the situation, and why some might say themselves, because I have seen it, that this is probably the ugliest character design in One Piece, or at least one of the ugliest character designs. And for that is obviously because of the name. Dr. Vegapunk is a legendary character. Absolutely iconic and legendary. And the reason for that is because literally for like 2 decades now, Dr. Vegapunk's name has been like dropped here and there throughout the story of One Piece. Ever since basically like Alabasta. And it maybe even earlier. I could be wrong there, but it's been a long time. Like, Dr. Vegapunk is a legendary character that has had just so much build up. And many of us, including myself, have been waiting a very long time to just see who he is. Is he good? Is he evil? Is he someone that's morally gray? What does he look like? Is he a guy or a girl? Etc. There's been a lot of discussions, a lot of theories of what, role he would play within the story, but we knew when he was talked about within the story of One Piece that when we finally got introduced to him within the manga, present day, we would learn a lot about the history of One Piece. For instance, the Void Century, the Devil Fruits, etc. And that is exactly what we have been getting in these chapters. And anyone that is a One Piece fan, and we're not just like staring at, let's say, the character designs, you cannot tell me that the latest stuff that's been going on is very fascinating. It's really opening up the world of One Piece and also giving proper clarification to these questions that's been in the community discussion for a very long time. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the point is Dr. Vegapunk is legendary. He is an absolute legendary character. And so it makes sense when his introduction finally happens. There is no way, even if this character design didn't look like it is right here, there is no way everybody would be happy with his design. It's not possible, just because of the build-up, the weight behind the character. There is no way Oda would have ever made a perfect representation of what people envisioned Dr. Vegapunk to be. That's the truth of the matter. So what Oda did was the best thing he actually could do. He made multiple character designs for Dr. Vegapunk, because it's clear that he separated his own brain, his cranium, to create multiple replicas of himself, but they look different. And so everyone's vision of Dr. Vegapunk and how they feel like, is he a woman? Is he a young dude? Is he an old guy? Is he, looks like, Einstein? These different type of scientists throughout history? Is he a wacky glutton? All that. Everything about Dr. Vegapunk, Oda kind of delivered, because he gave multiple designs for his character, so everybody in their own way can be a little bit satisfied, because Oda probably couldn't figure out a definitive design for his character, so decided to do multiple with different copies or clones to really just demonstrate who Dr. Vegapunk is. So I think that in all in its entirety, I think that's really good. That was a great decision by Oda, and I legitimately think he did a grade A job with going that direction, because I feel like it would make less people upset with the overall reveal of Dr. Vegapunk. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the stuff with his design. So if we're talking about this is the past Vegapunk before the clones were made. It's very clear what Oda is going with when it comes to this design. For one, the overall tongue sticking out to the way his face structure is, he's Einstein. It's very apparent, and it becomes even more apparent when you get, like, to the end of the chapter, when you get to, like, the final page of the chapter. The very design of Dr. Vegapunk, it is straight up, it screams at you that it is Einstein. Anyone can see this. The very face to the tongue and everything, it's an iconic picture of Einstein. Now, when it comes to the apple, I also like this little nod here to Newton as well, I think, with the apple stuff. So I think that there is a nice blend of design with Dr. Vegapunk's present-day appearance, because it kind of is a depiction of modern-day science. I think that's really nice. I know it's a wacky design and people might not care for it, but I think it really does fit with, let's just say One Piece aesthetic, but also just, kind of referencing actual famous scientists in real life. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm actually kind of a fan of present-day Vegapunk, and I think that overall, I really think it's interesting that despite how he has given up a lot of his brain to make clones of himself, he still is that incredibly smart. I wonder if there's any repercussions for it or whatever, or why he had to do it, but I also like how there's a brain stem here, like, the brain stem or the apple core. I do like that as well. Just the design, really interesting, big fan of it. But okay, enough with that, let's talk about some other things when it comes to the lore and the information that we have been learning in these recent chapters of One Piece. So I guess let's talk about one of the most polarizing topics of this chapter besides Dr. Vegapunk's design, which I don't think is really that bad, but everybody can have their own preference in terms of design. There's nothing wrong with that. But if there is one thing that I think is a very polarizing topic, and something that does need to be discussed, is Saul being alive. And as a reminder for anyone that has completely forgotten, Saul is the character that is in Robin's backstory, and this chapter does kind of try to remind you of that, but there is definitely a lot of details left out. But Saul was this, friend that Robin met. She was in a village getting bullied, she was an outcast, she was creepy because she had her devil fruit, etc. She had no one, really, and the only thing she really had was knowledge and studying at Ohara, and she met Saul, which was, as we know, kind of fleeing from the Navy, etc. And when you see this moment where he's running with Robin as the entire city or the island is on fire thanks to the Buster Call, he's running with Robin and he gets caught by a Koji. He's getting frozen over and about to die. He's like, you won't always be alone, Robin. Eventually, one day you will find someone out there. Eventually, one day you will find friends and family and you will have happiness. He says this. This was his parting words to Robin, and he smiled as he got frozen over and, from what we assumed, died at that point in time. It was a very big moment for Robin's character. It set up a lot in the upcoming chapters, to episodes, whatever you started with. It really set a lot for Robin's character. It really let us understand her and what she lost and why it meant so much to her to be a part of the Straw Hats and how she really views the Straw Hats. So Saul's character coming back, I feel like, is a little bit cheap, in my opinion, because we got to look at the facts here of, how he survived, okay? So, as I said, Akoji froze him solid. Now, okay, granted, even at the beginning, we knew Akoji wasn't, quote-unquote, evil. He's definitely no Akainu, okay? Akainu isn't necessarily evil, he's just very justice-orientated. He's just really straight justice. But the point is, Koji is flexible. He is a very flexible character. He's definitely more gray, and he is definitely someone that showed that he wasn't necessarily malicious towards Robin. He didn't want to throw her to the wolves, so to speak, but he was very harsh with her. And so when you see his, overall interaction with Saul, yeah, he had this kindness to him, but he also had this very stern, iron will to him as well. And so what he did to Saul was like, oh yeah, he faces these consequences because he's an adult, because he fled the Navy, etc. He deserved this. And so we thought, he died. And regardless of what we now know of Akoji or not, we gotta look at the facts here, is that we saw Luffy and we even saw Robin get frozen solid by Akoji, and we knew that if Chopper didn't free them from the ice properly, they would have died. And we don't know exactly how Saul got out of it, but we can only assume Saul got out thanks to some form of fire, maybe the island, burning, etc. But it does not change the fact, though, that he was frozen solid. And we've already seen giants within the lore of One Piece get frozen solid and die. Oars. Remember Thriller Bark with Moria and how he found, Oars' body? Like we found out about Oars was embedded in ice because he died to exposure? He was a giant, an ancient giant at that. And so someone like Saul would probably die to ice. Easily. So, just everything about his character being alive is just I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'm really not. I mean, there's stuff that can be changed, obviously, now that he's alive, but it's just it's like a big that that he's alive, and it's just like, there's other ways that Oda could have went about this, of saving the books, other giants could have been there, etc. I don't think necessarily it had to be Saul, but for some reason, Saul is there. Now, besides that, we do know that Captain Kidd is aware of Saul, because he talked about the Burn Man or whatever, so that's one big thing. But also, it's clear that we're setting up for, like, learning more information about the world, like devil fruits, etc., because even Punk Hazard was mentioned within this chapter, which that's a good segue. The knowledge, the lore of this chapter. So a lot of people, when they read this chapter, they might be thinking to themselves, like, all this stuff about the Void Century to the 20 kingdoms going against, one kingdom, all this is stuff that we're kind of been aware of. Yeah. But the thing is that our characters, like Frankie and all of them within this chapter, this is their first time hearing about it. Robin might have an understanding to a degree, but most of our characters within this situation, they just have, they're just now finding out about it. And so I think this is very important for the characters within lore and within the verse actually finding out about this, besides it being off screen. I think this is very important to organically set up the end game of One Piece. So I think that this is a great moment to really establish concrete evidence that yes, this is what happened in the Void Century, and we're finally going to dive into even more about what possibly happened within the said Void Century. So overall, the chapter's good. These chapters have been very good. Excellent arc of One Piece, honestly. I've been really enjoying it, and regardless of the overall controversy, maybe with Saul, how I feel that's a controversy, to maybe Vegapunk's design, I think that this is an excellent chapter of One Piece. I really like it. I've loved the lore we've been getting. So yeah, great chapter. That's my 2 cents on the matter, but I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and with that, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.